Today's practice will be all about lengthening and strengthening the spine. You will need a blanket, maybe for your head, and a yoga block, or if you don't have a yoga block, a pillow folded in half should work. So grab your things and join me on your mat. So you will lie on your back if you want that sweatshirt or something for your head. Go ahead and use that. Just kind of get cozy here. And once you're cozy, we are going to extend legs long if that feels okay. And just take a couple breaths here, inhaling, filling belly with air, and just noticing that stretching around your spine. And exhale, release. We'll do one more breath like this. And then on your next inhale, you're going to point your heels away from your head and start to raise arms up and behind you. And then exhale, start to sweep arms down alongside of you and release like tension in the legs. And just continue breath like that. And just kind of notice, maybe bring awareness to spine. Make sure you're not arching. Your like low back might like to arch or something like that. Just bring awareness on those inhales up at top, especially bringing some space to that chest area, the spine behind there, upper spine. And we'll do one more here, pointing those heels. All right, I was wrong. Let's do one more after this. Sometimes it just takes a bit to kind of, get into what you're doing. Beautiful. And then go ahead and hug knees in here. Yeah. And on you're going to kind of bend your elbows and kind of drop them down. So instead of squeezing with your shoulders, it's just the gravity of like your arms pulling your thighs toward your stomach. Inhale here and gently press thighs into stomach. It's not max capacity. And exhale, release. Let them kind of pull away. Inhale, press them in. And this time as you inhale, press in, play around with the idea that you're also taking your hip points here, your hip, and you're pressing it away from your head. So you're stretching that low back. Exhale, release. And it's almost more like a figment of your imagination than you feeling like you're really doing something. Inhale, squeeze. And feel like you're pressing maybe like tailbone, wherever, hips away from your body, but hugging knees in, and soften a little here. And then exhale, release. And we'll do one more. Awesome. From here, you're going to roll onto your side and make way up to hands and knees. So just kind of a little creating space in that low back we did with that knee tuck. And if you're like, Christy, I have no clue what that was, don't worry. We're going to keep introducing these spots in different ways. So we're going to come onto hands and knees here. Yeah. We're going to work with a little cat-cow. So you're going to inhale, chest forward, head up. Stomach goes back a little bit. Exhale, arch your back, let your head hang. But then this time, instead of really pressing, you can press away, but then you're going to start to lean back and bend the elbows and bring hips back toward the feet. Yeah. And just play around with like, okay, what does that feel like? And tuck chin a little bit once you're here. Inhale, come up onto all fours. Chest forward, head up. So we're just kind of stretching spine, moving it in different spots. Exhale, start to tuck that chin. Bend elbows and start to slide those hips back to the feet. Yeah. So just play around with that. There's no right or wrong, just kind of feeling different parts of your spine. Building awareness. No worries about doing it right, because it's really not about doing it right. It's more about noticing. What do you notice in your spine? Awesome. After this one, we'll come back up to hands and knees, and then come up high onto your knees. Take a breath here. And then when you're ready, come up to standing. Yeah, awesome. So here, when you're in standing, just kind of maybe rock back and forth a little bit. Bring palms forward, shoulders down a little bit here. And then find some stillness. Put hands on your hip points here and play around with noticing, where does your pelvis naturally stand? So first, you can point your hip points down toward the ground, and you're kind of like pop your booty out, right? And then you can point them up, and then your butt kind of goes down and it's a little flat. And then play around after doing both of those with where might middle be. And it might be different than like what's your normal. Just play around with that. And then see if you can hold that a little bit. And no worries, your body will go back to its habit. That's okay. Belly button nice and strong. So it's going to come into your spine, a tiny whisper, not like sucking it in, but a tiny whisper, and you'll feel core engaged. So if you point above the hip points, you'll feel core here. Inhale, reach arms up. Exhale, start to bend the knees and fold forward with a straight spine. So you're kind of like moving into chair. And then tuck chin and come down a little. Relax those shoulders. Then nice and strong again, belly button in. Still like folding forward with a straight spine, start to rise up. And you'll really feel we're strengthening and lengthening here. And then straighten those legs, come all the way up. And we're going to play around with that. If it irritates low back, adjust a little, or just bend knees totally and come down. So a little bend in the knees, start to fold forward. Butt sits back a little bit, straight spine, reaching out in front of you, maybe about halfway. Tuck chin. Engage that belly button towards spine, start to rise up. Straighten those legs, reach up. Yeah, and just continue that. Exhale, start to fold forward, tuck the chin, belly button in a little, nice and strong, and just a tiny whisper of in. Inhale, start to rise up. Keeping that straight spine, you'll feel the low back muscles strengthening. Yeah, one more time. Tucking chin again, so we're lengthening the back of the neck. So we're getting long in the entire spine, and then rise up. Oh yeah, bring arms down. Kind of check in. So I like to kind of shimmy my hips back and forth. I have a very tight low back now, but we were lengthening our muscles as we were strengthening them. So here, shoulders down. Inhale, reach arms up. With your right hand, grab onto your left wrist gently. Inhale nice and tall, but not arching from the low back, play around, or the chest. Exhale, start to bend over. So just the goal is feeling a stretch in this side body here. Nothing more, just kind of feeling that stretch. Inhale, back center. Flip hands here. Exhale over to the other side. Yes. Inhale, back center. Exhale, sweep arms down. Do a little shoulder circles. Release that tension there. Awesome. Inhale, reach arms up. Palms together. Exhale, thumbs down to your heart. Bring shoulders down away from ears and maybe back a little so we're not hunching forward. So we're opening up that front chest area, and then gently press hands into each other. Maybe even shake head no to see like how can I release a little tension from my neck. And then we're going to move into chair pose. So we're going to bend knees, shift hips back here. And then we're going to stay in it, but we're going to inhale and see if we can lengthen our spine. So for me, that means I tilt my tailbone down a little bit, grow tall in my chest. Exhale here. Come up to standing. Check in with those arms. And then back to chair. Exhale, back to chair. Lengthen the spine so it almost feels like tuck your chin. Feel like you're growing tall from crown of your head down to your tailbone and just play around with it. What does that feel like? Exhale here. On an inhale, come back to standing. And we're just going to continue that. Exhaling back to chair and just playing around. How can I lengthen? Tucking chin a little bit. Belly button in a little bit so our core is strong. Just a tiny whisper. And on our next inhale, come up to standing. Go ahead and do one more here. Yeah, nice job. And then up to standing. Now check in again. That was like some low back strengthening again. So maybe even, it's kind of silly, but some hip circles here. Just got the tension in there to kind of release that. We'll notice we want to strengthen, but we also want mobility. We want it to lengthen and we want it to work. And then reverse directions of those hip circles. However that feels good to you. Yes, awesome. From here, we'll come down to the floor. Once again, we're going to come down to our knees. We're like all over the place, right? You'll bring left foot forward here. Awesome. And I like to have it off to the left a little, just it helps my balance. If your knee is really hurting here, roll up the back of your mat, and then you can have double mat under your knee. If your knee hurts worse beyond that, adjust so you're a little closer so your knee doesn't hurt, or do this standing. So we're going to, instead of like hunching over our shoulders, we kind of dip with our hips here a little bit. It's just about feeling a little stretch here, and it will, if you're not super tight, it might just be a whisper, so it's nothing super huge. We're going to inhale, raise our arms up. And then exhale, goalpost arms. Bring those elbows back. Chest will just like open up, but we're not arching our back to push that chest forward. It's just maybe like peeking up to where the wall and ceiling meet, pointing chest that direction a little bit. Inhale, reach up. Tailbone kind of lengthens to the ground. And then exhale, goalpost arms. Elbows back a little. Chest and eyes looking where wall and ceiling meet. And just continue that with your breath. Playing around with what do you notice? We'll do one more. And then this time drop shoulders down away from ears, but really bring those elbows back so your shoulder blades kind of come toward each other a little more. And breathe here. Feel your breath go into that space between your shoulder blades. Awesome. Bring arms down. We will switch legs and check in with shoulders. If you're like, gosh, that brought a lot in, just shoulder circles or slowly shake your head no. The more we do this, the more we notice where we bring tension in our everyday lives, and we can release it. Right leg forward and moves over a little bit if you need to. And just find your spot for your lunge here that feels good on knee, legs, everything. Inhale, reach arms up and feel like tailbone is lengthening. I'm telling you again, it almost feels like it's a figment of your imagination, more so than you're really forcing something to happen. Exhale, goalpost arms. Shoulders away from ears, elbows back just a little, just a hair, and staring up where wall and ceiling meet, and then continue with your breath on this side. Lengthening tailbone on the inhale, reaching up. Exhale, goalpost, arms, elbows back. Creating space in that chest. And just moving with your breath, letting your breath guide you. Whenever you're ready on the next one, hold those goalpost arms. So elbows back, shoulders together, but then soften. So we're not doing it with 100%. It's like 80, where it feels like I'm working, but it also feels like there's a little bit of ease here. It's not all hard work. And then bring arms down. Come down to your knees, and then if it feels okay, come down to sit on thighs, feet. If this doesn't feel okay, you can sit regularly. We're just gonna take a little pause here, take a couple breaths. Just notice. Bring awareness to low back. Notice, is your pelvis tilting a certain way again? Can you play around with finding center again and lengthening that spine? And then can you lengthen back and neck? So chin comes down just a little bit, and maybe full head comes back a little. Awesome. And then from here, you're going to come all the way down onto your stomach. A little more back strengthener. One more time here. So hands are going to be next to your chest, elbows tucked in a little bit, and you're going to tuck your chin a tiny bit so you're staring awkwardly at your mat. And you're going to inhale, lift the chest, feel almost like you're peeling yourself forward to lift, and head can come up, chin can come up a little bit then. Exhale, lower. We're going to inhale, lift like that again, but this time lift your left leg behind you as well, but it's more lengthening than lifting high. Exhale, lower, and then switch to right foot. Inhale, lift, but you're stretching. Crown of head is pointing in front of you and toe is pointing behind you. Exhale, lower. Do one more time on each side. Awesome. Then when you're ready, lower all the way down to your belly and rest on one cheek. Take a couple breaths here. I don't know about you, but that to me always seems like such a simple movement, but for some reason it feels like there's so much going on and there's so much energy. Part of it is it is a back bend, and that does bring energy in our body. And our low back is a spot that just can really hold a lot of tension and in turn lose mobility and lose some strength. Go ahead, turn your cheek, turn to the other cheek and take a couple breaths here. Breaths on your stomach are pretty awesome because you really get to feel that inhale, belly pressing toward the mat. Exhale, release. Beautiful. From here, we're going to roll on to our backs. Now, if you want blanket, sweatshirt, whatever you have for a pillow, go ahead and grab something there. If not, no biggie. Awesome. Sometimes my neck is not okay lately, and I like to just curl something up a little bit to be right under my neck. Oh, first just take a couple breaths here, feet planted, knees bent. This can just be an awesome resting pose, really grounding, just connecting with the earth. And then we're going to straighten our right leg. Actually, before that, bring that back up. Shift your hips to the left, so scoot them over to the left a couple inches. And then straighten that right leg down to the ground. Lift the left leg in the air, and if you're like me, you're like, oh my gosh, Christy, I have no flexibility. This is hard, or maybe it's easy. So left leg in the air. Inhale, reach it tall. Exhale, bring it over to the right. And continue that with breath. Inhale, reaching it tall. You're like, I have the heaviest leg in the world. Exhale, bring it over. Inhale, reach it tall. Exhale, bring it over again. And we're going to leave it there. So if you need arms a different way, if you're like, oh my gosh, this is really hard, and you like play around if you need something. And then we're going to do something a little crazy. We're going to inhale from the thigh, turn your leg so toes are pointing up toward the ceiling. You feel a whole new thing. Exhale, release, kind of like turn it back, let it go. And just play around with this little breath here. Inhale from the thigh, turn those toes up. Again, it's not 100%. Exhale, release. We're just strengthening hips, leaving a little space in our low back. And just continue that with your breath. A couple more times here. I don't know about you, but holy man, this uses little muscles. So if you're like, why does this feel so achy? We're finding muscles that we don't normally use potentially. And then go ahead, inhale, bring that leg back up to center. Hear me like, and set it down. I like to put both of my legs long, and I don't know about you, but when I do this, because I have more space in my low back now, that leg I just worked feels longer than my other one now. Check in, maybe you notice something like that, maybe you don't. And then we'll move to the other side. So left leg is long, right leg lifts. Inhale, reach it tall. And that doesn't mean, it's just like the idea of reaching it tall. Exhale, sweep it over to the left. And just continue that with a couple more breaths. And just being, instead of thinking like this is just what I'm doing, notice. Notice your hip here. Notice your low back. Notice if it's hard and your leg feels heavy like mine does. We'll do one more, and then we'll stay. And then again, inhale from the thigh, rotate that leg so toes are pointing toward the ceiling. Exhale, relax. And just play around with that, noticing what you notice. Nothing should ever feel like sharp pain. When I do this, I do feel a little dull ache, like, holy man. Like I said before, muscles I haven't gotten to before. Sometimes the tiniest movements can do the biggest things. We don't always have to go all out. We'll do one more. And then go ahead, inhale, bring that leg up high again. And then exhale, put it down. Yes. And just kind of notice. Take a breath here. And bring feet to the mat, knees in the air. And if you have a yoga block, you can grab it and put it between your legs, the skinny spot. If not, and you have nothing, don't worry. You can pretend there's a block there. I know that that sounds crazy, but you can. So you kind of pretend your feet are hip distance apart. If you've got the block, gently squeeze it. And feet are on the mat, knees in the air. If not, pretend you have a block there and pretend you're squeezing it. But then at the same time, and you can even do this with your block, pretend you're also pressing your thighs away from each other. And you're like, holy man, I feel stuff engaged that I didn't before, right? Inhale, lift hips up toward the ceiling. Bridge pose. Yeah, and then exhale, slowly lower down. Like you're lowering vertebrae by vertebrae. Check in with that leg engagement. And continue again. So that leg engagement, like they're pushing toward each other, pushing away. Make sure we strengthen so we can stabilize the pelvis as we work through this. We'll do 3, so once you've done your third, just come down and rest, and you can remove the block. Last thing here is put your hands on your hip points. Yeah. And we're just going to do tiny pelvic tilts. Again, this is a really subtle thing. So you're going to inhale. Feel like those hip points are pointing toward your feet. And then exhale, feel like they're shifting, moving back toward your head. So we did this standing. So butt kind of stays where it is, but just shifting that hip. And go ahead and continue that. Inhale, hip points toward your feet gently. Exhale up toward your head. One more time each way. And then find center. Play around like if there was a bowl. You have your pelvic bowl and you had a marble in there. Where would that marble kind of land? What would be center? Yeah, just take a breath here. And then before we move into our Shavasana, check in with your body. What other little movement does your body need? Maybe a big long body stretch, maybe hugging those knees in. It doesn't have to be a yoga pose. It's just like, okay, we've done a lot of work on low back and hips. What more do I, like, what's some last thing I need to do before I can lie down and rest? Or maybe you're like ready for rest now, then go there. You're like, I'm taking the extra minutes of just chilling. Beautiful. When you are ready, no rush. This is your practice. You have all the time you need. You can find some stillness. Maybe that's knees bent. Maybe that's legs long. Just lying in a way that's comfortable to you. Let shoulders get heavy. Take tongue down from the roof of your mouth and leave a little space between your teeth. If you're in a space that feels comfortable and you want to shut down the eyes, feel free. Otherwise, just turn your gaze down a little bit, whatever that means to you. And come back to the breath we did in the beginning of inhaling, filling belly with air, maybe noticing a little bit of the spine. Exhale, release. Bringing awareness to breath in your body now. And then let it go. Let that breath go. Let controlling the breath go. And let yourself just be for a little bit here. So often we're focused on doing. And just be sometimes means thoughts are rolling in. That's okay. Our goal is never to stop our thoughts, but to notice them so we don't get carried away in the stories they tell us. Notice sometimes there's an inner dialogue of like, I've got to get going, I have stuff to do. Just notice that. And then start to slowly bring movement back to your body. Wiggle fingers and toes. Slowly turn your head from one side to the other. On an inhale, reach arms up above and give yourself a nice long body stretch. Maybe even pointing those heels again a little bit, or toes. Play around with what feels good now. On an exhale, hug those knees into your body, just gently, hands on your knees, fingers toward your toes, and just rock a little bit, massaging that low back, maybe side to side. Maybe each knee goes in a separate circle in a figure 8. Just playing around with massaging that spot we worked. And then slowly roll on to the side of your choice. You can use your arm as a little pillow. We'll take a breath here. And when you're ready, no rush, your own time, slowly make your way up to seated. Notice here you can maybe sit a little taller. Check in with spine. How does it feel? Tuck chin a little bit, so it's not totally tucking, but just down a little, and then whole head back. Inhale, reach arms up. Palms together. Exhale, thumbs to heart. Bring a smile to your face here, and think of one thing you are grateful for today. One last smile to your face, and thank you so much for practicing with me today.